China and Netease, the games publisher that for 14 years has been distributing Blizzard games in the Chinese market. And I've said this a few times, but I'm always conscious new people stumble across my content all the time, and new people, are learning more and more about the business side of esports through my content. They turn from being, fans into enthusiasts, into speculators, into jaded old men with round glasses and grey beards. And that is the natural progression of the esports fan. But just so you know, if you want to do business in China, because China is a very selfish nation, you have to partner up with a Chinese company that essentially can either distribute your product or utilize your product or service, and they get a share of the revenue. If you don't offer that or aren't willing to enter into that agreement, you are denied the Chinese market. And of course, the Chinese market is huge because you increasingly now you have a populace that is aware of Western media and Western media products, and they have a desire to purchase these things, albeit in a watered-down form, because everything has to be approved by the Chinese government to even be sold in the first place. And so Blizzard, to distribute their games, it's not as simple as opening an office in China. You have to partner up with an existing company. Their existing company was Netease. And Netease and Activision Blizzard have had a pretty steady relationship for a long period of time. Hell, they even got through that turbulent time when they punished Blitzchung for saying, freedom to Hong Kong. And Activision Blizzard sided with the Chinese government and sided with their Chinese companies and effectively punished somebody for saying, I don't want to live under the tyranny of an authoritarian government. All the while rewarding people for saying, but my Trump. So it seems to me to be a little bit hypocritical there, but something happened. Something insane happened. A terrible breakdown in the relationship that hasn't been revealed. I'm digging into it because there was a post from a Netease executive that said, in the future, you will see what damage one jerk can do. And as I've said, my assumption is that the jerk is Bobby Kotick. But then again, the more I think about it, is Bobby Kotick, particularly at this time, so much of a jerk that he would sabotage the company in a way by being an asshole? Because the only way he could potentially cling to power and retain his job would be if the company was to do well ahead of the Microsoft buyout, which should be approved by the government once it's been investigated end of 2023, start of 2024. So who is the jerk? I guess we don't know. Maybe he's decided on the way out he just wants to sabotage it because he knows he can't keep his job. But we don't know who the jerk is, and we don't know what's happened. But it was so bad, Netease didn't just say, we won't even do an extension while you look for an alternative publisher in China. Right? We are immediately ending it. The games are now turned off. I believe the deadline was the 23rd. And they even went and dismantled the statue of Goa'uld from World of Warcraft outside their offices. The relationship is irreparably broken. They have zero interest in ever working with Activision Blizzard again. Really makes you think. And so, Blizzard games have gone offline in China. And the Esports Insider, a publication we've talked about a lot on this channel because they do good work. This is Jake Nordland. He wrote an article saying, what does it mean for esports? Because in particular, there was some trepidation from the OverWatch League fans. So, Blizzard Entertainment titles, including Overwatch, StarCraft, Hearthstone, and World of Warcraft. Obviously, we're focusing on Overwatch in this section of the stream, but it's all of the games. It's not just Overwatch, but Overwatch, I believe, might be most affected. Although I've got to say, I did see some translated posts on various forums and on Twitter, and it was Chinese World of Warcraft players that had made friends on other servers. I didn't even know they could play on other servers without a VPN. I thought VPNs were a bit of a naughty thing to use in China, but whatever. But anyway, and they were all going, I've lost all my friends. I can't play World of Warcraft anymore. I've lost all my friends. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. So, I get that. But anyway, they've gone offline in China following a tumultuous end, putting it nicely, to the developers' distribution partnership with Netease. Servers officially went offline when the clock struck midnight on January 24th in China, but the relationship was axed back in November 2022 and has been getting increasingly acrimonious since. At the time, Netease president Simon Zhu publicly vented at Blizzard, calling an unspecified person at the company a jerk. Then on January 17th, Blizzard said on Chinese social media site Weibo that it had offered to extend the partnership for 6 months while it looked for another distribution partner. Netease, for its part, rejected the extension and called it commercially illogical, per a translation by Reuters. It had to refuse the extension because it had already fired employees and closed its shared office. You remember we read that Esports Advocate report as well, didn't we? And they'd fired all of the people that dealt with Blizzard games because they were, and only then did Blizzard go, oh yeah, we could do an extension because we've not got our shit in order. So is that all right? And they went, no, we've just fired everyone, dickhead. What do you mean? What, rehire everyone on more money? Nah, you're all right, actually. And remember, if you know about Netease doesn't just do Blizzard. It does loads of games out there, and there are a number of games that are just huge in the Chinese market, huge in the Southeast Asian market, huge actually, just in all the Asian markets, South Korea as well, that you wouldn't even know what they were. You wouldn't play them, you've never heard of them, there's no like Western equivalent of them. So when Netease said this is like a small percentage drop in the bucket of our overall profits, I don't think they're lying by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure Netease is going to be absolutely fine without Blizzard games. Anyway, well, why does the toxic relationship matter for esports? Well, the termination of the deal appears to be a mutual blow to both Netease and Activision Blizzard, the latter of which is already under pressure from sexual harassment lawsuits and legal challenges to the upcoming Microsoft merger. Netease held China's valuable government authorization to distribute Blizzard titles, and this means even if Activision Blizzard found a new distribution partner, it could take months or years before the government grants a hard-to-come-by license to operate its games in the country. Yes, this is something else you have to be aware of in China. I've talked about it for years, but let's just go over it again. Because everything has to be approved by, I think it's called the Ministry of Culture, or it might have changed its name slightly, maybe like the Ministry of like Youth and Culture or something for the People's Republic of China. It's got some unbelievably long title, but basically it's a government ministry that has to approve everything for sale, and they give out these licenses to companies that essentially play nice with the Chinese government. What does playing nice with the Chinese government mean? Well, for example, you absolutely must acquiesce. If they ever want user data, you must give it to them. And they do. It's forced compliance. And this has been brought up even by the American government. There's a lot of worries. I mean, by the way, there's a push at the moment to ban TikTok for being Chinese government spyware. But even prior to that, there were conversations being held in the US government about, well, where does the line of compliance end for their business partners that operate in the country? Could your data be passed over to the Chinese government for reasons you might not even understand or be aware of? And there was certainly some trepidation about that. But obviously, there's other aspects of it. You will remember Tencent got their loot jacked. The Chinese government essentially came in, made a bunch of changes to Tencent, saying what games they can and can't sell in China, including some very big titles, what type of programs they can run in China. And they also said, good news, everyone, Tencent's decided to give us, and it was something like, I don't know, I want to say it was like $8 billion from what I remember. I did a video on it anyway. You can go and look up the exact figure. But, they took billions from Tencent, and it was to distribute for good works for the people. And in other words, the government said, yeah, you can keep being Tencent, this huge mega corporation, but we're just taking some of your money. And we're going to do a joint press release and say you're doing this altruistically, but in reality, it's just governmental theft of your profits, right? All hail the Chinese government, right? So if you play ball and if you do these things, you will get your license to continue to operate. But they are very hard to come by. They're only given out to the biggest and best and to the people that have solid relationships with the Chinese government and these ministries. And so when Blizzard have decided to do this, whoever made this call, they said, we're going to find another distributor. And reading between the lines, based on the fact they announced the deal had stopped, then asked for an extension, here's what this tells me. They have asked around, and they have either been told no, because also, I don't know how to tell you this, if you've upset one sizable Chinese business in an industry sector, good luck thinking another Chinese business is going to want to enter into partnership with you, and they're not going to take it as some sort of slight against the country as a whole. That's not how they're wired. They're going to be very upset. And so I don't think it's a guarantee you can even get another Chinese distributor unless you are giving them some sort of unbelievable sweetheart deal that might make the overall loss of face worth taking. So you've got that. Also, as well, there are a limited amount of prospective people that could do this particular job for Activision Blizzard. There's only a handful of people that can do it because there's only a handful of people that have this license. And so it's entirely possible that Activision Blizzard, incredibly, think about where we were a few years ago, and I was talking about how unethical Activision Blizzard were over the Blitz chunk thing, how they're calling out bullshit in America, and, but ignoring the Uyghur Muslim genocide in the autonomous Xinjiang region. Think about how here's a rainbow flag for Pride Month, but not on the Chinese or the Korean broadcasts. And there's reports in the media that they deliberately edited footage so people wouldn't even see rainbow flags on those broadcasts. It's like, we're talking about that, and now all of a sudden they're not even in a relationship with China anymore. It's actually all soured, and we don't even know why. It's pretty crazy. So, Daniel Ahmad is a senior analyst at market research firm Nico Partners. Yeah, very good with a deagle. It's hard to say exactly who's at fault. From Blizzard's perspective, they'd say China makes up only 3% of their revenue across the entire company in the grand scheme of things. So it could be a case of Blizzard thinking they can get a better deal. And actually, when I saw that quote and I heard that number, I was kind of blown away, actually, because that means that for an additional 3%, right, like for that 3% of their revenue, they were willing to sell out all of their principles and align themselves with people that would violate human rights. For 3%, I was assuming, well, the Chinese market must make like 20% or something, must be worth being evil. Right? No, it's 3%. So when I did that speech, the speech that never aired, when I should have won that award that I didn't win, and I said all you would have to do the right thing is choose between being wealthy or mega wealthy. I was absolutely spot on. It's not even that big a distinction. Crazy. Anyway. This is where it gets interesting, and this is where it starts to relate to Overwatch. China is the largest esports market in the world, and that's interesting to think of, but because you might think otherwise, but it's true. It's it was why when we had problems with the Overwatch League, the way to downsize was to just ship all the franchises out to China, employ some Chinese players on lesser salaries than like American talent, and just hunker down for a few seasons and hope Overwatch 2's gonna save everything. How's that working out, dickheads? Not very well, is it? So it is. It's the biggest market. It's got the biggest leagues, the most money spent, thirst for the titles. People are still playing the games out there. That's what's it cannot be understated what a particular stupid decision this is from a company that apparently wanted to we love esports, we do. Well, it's like, okay, you've just isolated yourself from the biggest market. Doesn't really seem to fit that. Okay. So anyway, China makes up a significant portion of the player base for Activision Blizzard titles, particularly in Overwatch, because as we've established, the only people playing Overwatch in the West are foot fetishists and other sickos. But in China, it's just regular gamers. Over here, for some reason, it's just weirdos. But nothing short of 4 of Overwatch League's franchises are based in China. The Hangzhou Spark, the Chengdu Hunters, the Guangzhou Charge, and the Shanghai Dragons. And this is where it gets especially delicious. Because Activision Blizzard can only do things in a corrupt fashion, one of the first franchises they gave with a real sweetheart grandfather deal was to Netease itself. It was another way to, you know, we'll entwine our relationships. It was like some Game of Thrones shit. So Shanghai Dragons is owned by Netease, so they own a franchise in the Overwatch League in a country that can't distribute Overwatch, where people can't play Overwatch. They're the company that used to do it, and they've absolutely said they'll never do it again because of a jerk within Activision Blizzard. It's too fucking good. I've got to say, like, listen, Schadenfreude, I fucking love it, me. But when I did that video on Blitz Esports or wherever it was, and it was when I was working at E-League, and E-League was sort of like, take it easy on them, Rich, please, because we're in talks to do an Overwatch Cup, and I said, listen, I'm like that guy from your mythology. I cannot tell a lie, and I will chop down the cherry tree. That's George Washington. I know I said that guy from your mythology, but it's Americans. You gotta poke them a little bit now and then. But anyway, so when I did that video, I just believed it would fail on its face, you know, because it's like it was a stupid buy-in amount. It had no path to profitability. It was working at the time with a preference for people external to esports who'd never run an esports organization before. And it was run by Activision Blizzard, who have fucked up every esport they've ever touched. So all of those things, and just concepts like regionality, which are a complete anathema to the incredible, you know, unchecked, unexplored potential of what esports can be. We're only held back by technology, you know, and that's changing all of the time. Remember, you know, people used to play on fucking dial-up when I started, and look where we are now. But anyway, that was what I was saying. What I couldn't have predicted would just be the hilarious fucking, like, everything Activision Blizzard did just got checked by, like, some insane, catastrophic global event, you know? Like, the pandemic absolutely fucked their entire model. Like, it was like, right, okay, it's season 3, it's time, let's all start going into live events. Oh, can't do that no more. Okay, well, what about if we could do it over here? No, it's a global pandemic, and actually, if you want to do it in China, which would make sense, you can't even do it in China because people are getting welded into their houses and left to starve to death. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go back to doing it online. Oh, we're going to have to shut our studio. Oh, we're going to have to make huge layoffs. Oh, okay, well, don't worry. Just as we're coming out of the pandemic, bam, fucking all of the sexual harassment scandals, lawsuit after lawsuit, scandal after scandal, negative headline after negative headline, mass sponsor exodus, no one wanting to work with the league anymore. And they're sat there literally lying to their partners and investors. And remember, the second generation of people that came in the expansion leagues were meant to pay even more than the original people that paid $20 million fucking dollars for these dog shit franchise slots that aren't even worth a 20th of that now. Lying to them. Don't worry, guys. The sponsors will be back. They're just saying it temporarily for optics. And here we are, season due to start again. No sponsors, still no sponsors. But don't worry, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to take those PPP loans, right? Those fucking, you know, protection loans that were put out by the government. Will help you get some relief from the COVID plan from the government. Probably a little bit naughty, but, you know, it's not illegal. Everyone's exploiting it. Everyone's doing it. Here you go. Take that. And we'll just downsize. We'll move everything to China. They're not not welding people in their houses anymore. Of course, as soon as they did that, there was another flare-up of COVID and they immediately started welding people in their houses. But let's just put that to one side for a moment, because at least the one thing you can always bank on Activision Blizzard having is a good relationship with China, the biggest esports market on planet Earth. And we've got all these franchises there. It's all gonna be fine. We're even moving LA Gladiators or whatever the fuck. They're out there. And then this. Guys, sorry, but on an executive level, someone has made a decision that means you can't even play Overwatch in China. And no, we don't have any plans on how to get around it or how to fix it. We might just have to postpone all of the games. Guys, apart from me just being able to sit here cackling because this has just been 6 years of absolute fucking comedy, I've got to say, be sure to bring all this up. Please reference my videos. Please call me as an expert to the class action suit, which you will win by a landslide, because you've absolutely been sold a fucking bill of goods. This is so fucking outrageous that your needs as owners and business partners have just been given such scant consideration with every decision they've made, every activity they've undergone, every behavioural peccadillo they've indulged in. It's all fucked you over to the point where the league is a lemon. And by the way, even if you survive to this year and make it to 2024, Microsoft shut you down immediately because your league is a fucking joke. And why wouldn't he? So it's dead. It's already dead. It's fucking Fist of the North Star. You can stand there laughing, but your head's about to pop, buddy. Because I got off the fucking death punch. It's over. It's over. It's been over. Anyway, I just had to get that out of my system because it's too fucking funny. And I'll be there, honestly, on the day it's announced that it's gone. Party hat. Just streaming that. I'm gonna reach out to all the Overwatch fans. We'll have an Overwatch fan phone in. What about today, dickhead? We'll call it the dickhead phone in. We'll just have them all weeping. Maybe I'll be tracing, no, your league's gone. Your league's gone. You foul, terrible clowns. You absolute losers. The one thing you loved, the Overwatch League, gone, taken from you. Now get out of esports and go and do something else, you fucking weirdos. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And by the way, I never used to feel that way, but now I hate the industry holistically. So why the fuck wouldn't I? Why would I want you to be the first domino to fall? So please. So that's going to be great. Anyway, it's out my system. It's all out my system. Okay. It's not clear what will happen to those franchises, right? Isn't it? All right. It's not clear what will happen to those franchises, whether they'll be forced to relocate, rebrand, or play abroad. Just brilliant. We shipped everyone out to China. Sorry, we've turned off the game in China. Can we all leave China now? Brad Crawford, a senior director of global communications for Activision Blizzard Esports, told the Esports Insider there was still a full slate of teams for both East and West because China competes in the league's East division. Another ridiculous change they made. So even on a season-to-season basis, it's not even the same thing. There's no way to compare like Season 1 to Season 2 to Season 3. Just a different format every time. But confirm that changes will come into the Overwatch League in 2023. More changes, that's the one. That'll save it. More changes. The league is definitely making changes for the 2023 season, Crawford said. We've been working hard behind the scenes to iron out details and plan to share more with the community in the next couple of weeks. We are looking forward to Overwatch League 6th season, where we expect a full slate of teams from the East and the West. Brilliant. Crawford said there would also be a community update video going through all the details next week, which would answer questions about Blizzard's community in China. But on January 23rd, the Chengdu Hunters, right, and we all love, they tweeted this. They didn't get the memo. Because they tweeted, goodbye. They just tweeted goodbye. I just don't even know. Like, surely you tell the teams what's going on. Like, maybe we don't have a right to know, but you tell the teams. But no, they just went bye. Thanks for everything. Like, no, you're not dead yet. No, please come back. I'll just read this because it's funny. There was a funny little quote in this article, yeah. As the game was taken offline yesterday, Chengdu Hunters issued a solemn statement to fans saying goodbye and see you again. It definitely seems that this isn't a permanent goodbye, but it does raise questions as to how Chinese players are meant to find teams and practice until Blizzard manages to secure another Chinese partner to publish its games. This is another thing. So I did talk about this, I think, on the other stream. There was talks about like how they were proposing to get around it was maybe they just use VPNs so the teams can practice. But I just cannot believe for a second that is a good idea. That seems to me to be really flirting with something terrible happening. So, I don't know. But that is an actual... The two things I heard from my sources were, we're gonna give the teams VPNs. And I'm like, yeah. Or... we're just going to postpone their games and we're going to find ways to, like, play offline so they can practice, you know, with, like, standalone versions of the game or something so they can practice among themselves. Also might be, because the game's not approved for sale in China, so I don't even know. So anyway, that was the plan, but it goes on here. So far, the Chengdu Hunters are the only Overwatch League to comment on the matter. A league team, that should say, to comment on the matter. But they are far from the only team to be affected by the news. Hangzhou Spark, Guangzhou Charge, Shanghai Dragons, and Los Angeles Valiant. That was it. Valiant, not Gladiators, my bad. Who gives a fuck? They're all made-up franchises that are owned by Activision Blizzard anyway, and not real teams. All mainly operate in China and will presumably have to move their players elsewhere to compete in the Overwatch League this year. Can't wait for that. Exodus! Bob Marley there. Anyway, let's go on. Professional players aren't the only consideration here. The live streaming of unlicensed games is also prohibited in China, meaning esports broadcasts of Blizzard games, in theory, are no longer allowed. In reality, it's even more complicated than that. Right? Now this, guys, I can only, seriously, like, I'm gonna come. It's so fucking, it's just too much. Pleasure overload. It's fucking ridiculous. The Overwatch League, that has been propped up all of this time by the Chinese viewing numbers. Right? Like, literally, they have used all the obscure metrics to try and fucking, like, you know, it's the viewership's going up, actually. Meanwhile, you go to esports charts and they don't factor in Chinese numbers, and it's just cratering into the drink. And they're saying, no, but it's up because we got these Chinese numbers. They've now put themselves in a position where you might not even be able to broadcast the game in China. Brilliant. Bravo. Bravo. By the way, this is before you even get into, there's an antitrust investigation still going on, because they might have been a functional monopsony or whatever the fuck the word is. It's just, God, I can't handle it. Like, oh my God, it's so good. It's so fucking good. It's just so brilliant how much they have tanked this league and how incompetent Activision Blizzard are. Let's get ourselves fully aligned with China. Now let's fuck over our relationships with China. It's brilliant. Anyway, our expert from Nico Partners said, technically, officially, the game requires a license, one of those aforementioned government licenses, before it can be monetized, streamed, or distributed. But practically, it's very different in that people in China can still access games that may not have a license. They can still watch games that don't have a license. The only time it's really enforced is when a game is banned for a specific reason, and that specific reason might be, it's inappropriate censorship laws. It's, that Winnie the Pooh game, or, it's like Tiananmen Square Simulator. Those games get banned. No way anyone's ever going to see that ever in China. And if you even download that, you're just going to prison. So, you know. Ahmed said, while the games likely won't disappear completely from live streaming platforms, broadcasts of those titles may become more streamer and influencer based in the absence of an official NetEase stream, because that's another aspect of it. NetEase also used to push the Blizzard broadcast. So, no good feeling. Ain't no love in the heart of the city. For Blizzard, there's none. It's not there. It's gone. All the good feeling's gone. So what they might have to do is they might have to like reach out to like individual streamers that might be able to stream the game. It's like a fucking influencer type thing. I don't know. But the bottom line is there is a chance that people are so aggrieved in the Chinese market, they just go, you know what? Fuck your Overwatch broadcast. Fuck it. Fuck it. We'll still let streamers play the game if they can somehow. But, you know, or show footage of it. But nah, fuck your official broadcast. Chinese streaming platform Bilibili received exclusive broadcast rights to the Overwatch Leagues in China from Activision Blizzard in 2021 in a multi-year deal, but it's not clear what the implications are for that partnership, and I don't know enough about the relationships between, like, the Chinese government, Bilibili, NetEase, other individuals, you know, but there is a chance, as I said, Bilibili might be in solidarity and not silly when it comes to showing blizzy games, you know, who knows? So we'll have to wait and see. Finally, the sunsetting of Blizzard's titles in the country comes just 1 month after Valorant received approval. And so now you have this absolutely fucking other hilarious component to it. For those who don't know, because people seem to be a little bit confused, because there were Chinese Valorant orgs, but the game was not officially released. In China, it was pending approval from, the government. Now, we all know Tencent has one of the government distribution licenses, but every game has to be approved by that ministry I was telling you about. And I can't remember, I don't know if there was, like, some things in the game that they were a bit iffy about, you know, because there's, like, strange laws in China, like depictions of the undead, for example. You can't have skeletons or skulls and stuff like that, you know. So who knows? But anyway, it finally got approved. So Activision Blizzard, in their infinite fucking wisdom, have got their games taken out of the biggest esports market in the world, including an FPS game for which they have run a supposedly pioneering multi-$100 million esports league for, just at the time its biggest potential competitor has been approved on that market. Now, for me, I am not an expert in business by any means, but I'm going to suggest that was a really fucking bad idea. That was the dumbest thing you could have done at the dumbest time. That's just me. Stood back here, watching it from the sidelines, trying not to act. I've got a stitch from laughing. What's going on with the Overwatch? I'm like, oh my God, lost weight. Not that you would know, but I have. Laughed myself thin. Thanks, Kotick. But no, this is fucking disastrous, because if you've got the yen to go and play a fucking FPS game, right, and you can't play your favorite FPS game, which was a class-based shooter with superpowers, right, and not a very good one, and on the market there's an alternative that I can just download. It's free to play. And wait, it's a sort of class-based FPS where the characters have superpowers, and it's better because it's based on Counter-Strike. Gone. All your customers gone. All your player base gone. Sorry, I'm just going to do the impression of that dude from the famous Kit Boga video. All your money gone. All your money gone. Why did Bobby Kotick redeem the cards? I don't understand why he redeemed the fucking cards. Why? Why, Bobby? Why? Why did you redeem the cards? I just don't get it. So, naturally, just from a fucking business perspective, you can see this is disastrous. This might have killed Overwatch. Overwatch 2 was meant to bring balance to the Force. It was meant to save the game. There's already, like, people are already bored. Overwatch 2 is already now, in terms of players and, you know, engagement, it's already at the same level Overwatch was before. Why? Because it was never a sequel to begin with. Because they did a rushed development process to bundle it out to try and save their failing esports league, to make it look like the game had a future, to give it the illusion of content. I reported that using my sources. It's there on Desert, or you can go and read all about it. And of course, the Overwatch fans, yeah, but he hates the league. He's always said it's gonna fail. How's it looking now? Rosy? Rude health? You all having a good time? Ahmad from Nico Partnerships said Valorant does have an opportunity there to reach gamers in the country. It's very good timing for Riot, at least, given Overwatch has gone offline and there's that gap for a hero-style shooter game. However, the end of the deal will be a heavy hit for Netease too, whose stock price plunged when the news of the partnership cancellation was announced. Netease will no longer be running the on-the-ground events it used to for Blizzard's titles either, which, by the way, spoiler, if they ever do get to host an event in China again, which, by the way, you're looking at months before that could even be a viability, in my opinion. We're probably gonna know by April what the future looks like. I don't think it's coming anytime soon. But, you know, even if they could do that, now also you've lost all that expertise. Now you've lost that relationship. Now you've got to get somebody else that you don't know can do it, doesn't know what the parameters are, doesn't know what they have to... So, nightmare. Amid name slinging and statue destroying, the stormy end of the 14-year relationship seems in many ways to go beyond a purely business decision. References the Simon Zhu LinkedIn post again and said, today is such a sad moment to witness the server shutdown, and we don't know how things will play out in future. The biggest victim would be players in China who live and breathe in those worlds. I also know how hard it will feel for those Blizzard developers who have spent all their passion and talent to build those amazing worlds. I hope all those valuable memories never fade away, except Overwatch, because it's full of foot fetish weirdos. I added that last bit. Bottom line, things aren't looking too good for Overwatch, in my opinion. I think that's a massive blow to the league, massive blow to its future, and also, I mean, you know, it could be the last nail in the coffin for the people who own these teams wanting to maintain some sort of relationship with Activision Blizzard within the context of the Overwatch League, because now they're going to have to move their teams probably. They're going to have to move the players. Maybe some players don't want to move, especially during, you know, COVID flare-ups and talk again of, what was it they were saying? Won't we get in the twin-demic? Wasn't that the phrase in the papers? Oh, it's flu and COVID now. I think like the new version of COVID is called Kraken. I think the Kraken variant, release the Kraken variant. So not everyone might want to come abroad, and so now you might have to like even re-recruit. You might have to like re-recruit players, and what does that mean? So a mess, an absolute mess. But I couldn't be happier about it.